Hey friends, thank you for joining me. I'm Jess, your friend in HR, and today we're going to talk about 4 mistakes that managers make when completing performance evaluations. Let's get into it. First and foremost, the first mistake I see as someone who has read thousands of evaluations in her HR lifetime is when managers don't give clear examples. And that's both clear examples of what they want and clear examples of what they don't want. Managers can notoriously not quite know how to say something, and so they tend to be vague, which isn't very helpful to the employee who wants to change their behavior. So telling someone that they have a bad attitude, for example, immediately makes them defensive. There's nothing actionable there that they can change or do differently. So instead, give specific examples about how you saw them show up in a meeting. Maybe they had negative body language or a negative tone of voice. That is a specific thing that you can call out as an example and ask them to change and do differently. And then you want to give an example of how they can do it better. Explaining to your folks what better looks like is going to set them up for success. Number 2, the sandwich approach. It can be really difficult to give negative feedback to an employee. When the employee is standing there looking for validation and what you have to say is, you didn't meet the mark, that can be really hard. Unfortunately, leaning into this difficulty is the only way to get through it. Some managers take what they call the sandwich approach, and I am not a fan of this at all. The sandwich approach is when you start with a positive comment about the employee's performance, you throw in the thing that's negative there in the middle, and then you end that interaction with something else that's positive, like keep up the good work or keep doing a good job. And while this seems like a softer approach and it feels like a kinder approach, it's actually just the opposite. Clear is kind. And when you do the sandwich approach, your employee may miss what's in the middle, which is really what you wanted them to take away from the situation to begin with. So think about that when you're delivering hard feedback. You can separate it out instead into areas of strengths and areas that are opportunities for growth and development. Don't use the sandwich approach and think that they're going to get the message. Most likely, they're going to look at that whole interaction, take those 2 positives, swallow that sandwich down, and never get the actual feedback that you wanted them to get. All right, number 3, too long or too short. Some managers barely fill out performance evaluations at all, and then other ones are like Ernest Hemingway. So be somewhere in the middle. What I like to tell managers is using a bullet point approach is super helpful. So get your bullet points together about the things that you want to cover, the content that you want to ensure that your employee takes away from the performance evaluation conversation, and the rest of it you can do when you meet them face to face or Zoom to Zoom or however you're delivering the performance feedback. You can elaborate as much as you want in conversation, but those bullet points are there for the documentation purpose. This is for them to take away, to reminisce about the conversation you had, and then to be able to digest that information in the best way possible. So being clear, being concise, keeping it short, but not so short that they don't get the message. So make sure you don't do too long or too short. You want to find that sweet spot right in the middle that's just enough content to get your point across and to ensure that the employee knows exactly what to do moving forward. And 4th and final mistake, and in my opinion, this is the biggest one, and that's the content of the evaluation is a surprise. The content of the evaluation should never be a surprise. The content of the evaluation should be the culmination of everything that you've talked about all year long. If you've not been having regular interactions with your employees, it can be assumed that no news is good news. They may think they're doing a great job. And then if you hit them with some negative feedback there at the end of the year, they're going to feel blindsided, they're going to feel betrayed, and their trust is going to erode in you. And you do not want that as a leader. So never put anything in the performance evaluation that is a surprise. If you have feedback through the year that you know will end up on the performance evaluation at the end of the year, make sure you're giving that in real time. The performance evaluation should just simply be a recap. Okay, folks, those are the 4 mistakes that I've seen managers make when completing performance evaluations. So stay tuned, keep liking and subscribing. That way you never miss any of the great HR advice and manager advice that I give out weekly here on this channel. I'm Jess, your friend in HR, and until we meet again, check your emails.